Hi, welcome to our senior design pitch entitled Huskers Smart Bet, a mobile app for responsible sports betting among college students. What we're trying to do today is to give you a description of the project and the build to develop a mobile app to help reduce harm associated with sports betting. I'm Dr. McCargue, professor in psychology and clinical psychologist, and one of the primary investigators of this project.
Hi, I'm Bhairav Ramamurthy. I'm a professor here in the School of Computing. I have been an instructor as well as a sponsor in the past for senior design projects.
I'm Brett Neely. I'm an assistant professor in the management department in the College of Business. My leadership or my research rather looks at the impact of kind of social context on people's behavior. So I'm really interested in how that impacts gambling behaviors.
And hello, everyone. My name is John Gare. I work as the Assistant Director of Alcohol and Other Drug Education for the university, and I typically use theory research and the latest techniques in order to educate students on harm reduction and prevention methods.
Now, the reason why we're interested in this project is because of the prevalence of sports betting, particularly on college campuses. This is a new type of behavior that has a lot of different components to it, including financial responsibility, impulse control, and normative perceptions on how people engage in these behaviors. We've noticed across the country that sports betting has become more and more prevalent, particularly among the male population, and that among some at risk, it could cause quite a bit of harm, particularly related to financial harm and the ability to maintain good standing in college. One idea we had was that we really wanted to develop a financial approach to this app and partner with the College of Business to try to find the best solutions for reducing harm associated with sports betting.
So when it comes to sort of the theoretical foundations behind the project, we're using a perspective called bounded rationality. And basically what bounded rationality looks at, usually in sort of the economic or organizational literature, is how people make decisions tends to be influenced by the amount of information that they have. So usually, we think about decision making being made in kind of an ideal situation or ideal circumstances where we have full information, we understand everything that's going on kind of in the background. But when you really think about it with gambling, that's not the situation in which people make decisions about betting. And so I put here how are odds calculated just as one example of. So while standard models assume that we have this information, the reality is we don't often have that information. Usually we as people, and in particular bettors, are operating with incomplete information. We also have time pressure, emotional influence. Think about having friends around you or media influencing the way that you bet, things like that. So again, it's just like really how are odds calculated? How are we making these decisions? It's not just who is deciding that this team is going to beat that team. There's a lot of other things that are influencing our decision making when we make bets. So that's the kind of perspective that we're using. And ultimately, it's in the hopes of helping to support individuals to make good betting decisions, to engage in responsible gambling behaviors, even when they're operating with incomplete information. And then this app is going to help us to understand behavior and also to help us educate people who are making or thinking about making bets to hopefully do that in a responsible way.
Now, the overall aim of the project is to develop a robust mobile app prototype, which integrates feedback from us as well as feedback from the targeted population. We're developing what we call a co-design beta test where we will start to use our ideas, the team's ideas for how to develop the app. And then we'll bring in male college students that are active in sports betting to get their opinions across the differing stages of app development.
Let's talk about some of the expected impacts, starting with the core goal, and that being harm reduction. The project is centered on the prototype of reducing harm for sports betting. We're not just looking to prevent people from betting entirely, but providing tools and strategies to help them manage their behavior and finances to avoid negative consequences. The goal is to create a safety net for those who are engaged in sports betting, offering support before the problem escalates. This leads directly into our plans for funding dissemination. The data we collect from this initial pilot will be essential. It serves as pilot data that we need to apply for larger funding, allowing us to expand our research and refine the digital prototype. Our ultimate vision is to disseminate this tool across campuses, making it widely available to populations that are particularly susceptible to gambling risks. And finally, this work is critical for capacity building. Our project is a foundational step providing essential groundwork for future and adaptive innovations in our research. By building and testing this prototype, we're developing a knowledge and methods we need to create a more dynamic and personalized intervention.
Now, there are many parts of the app. There will be an educational component where people can learn financial literacy and be able to view financial literacy videos at any time. There'll be a background detection where the phone will, or our app will identify when betting has happened and pause the behavior just briefly within 30 seconds to then engage in some sort of cognitive exercise related to reappraising their intentions as well as reappraising their financial goals within betting. We'll also be able to track and monitor their gambling behavior and goals to see whether or not they're meeting their goals across time. And then we'll be able to also give them pre-post surveys to assess any change in attitudes associated with gambling and associated with financial literacy. If possible, we'd love to have the ability to have GPS integration because we also know that casinos are within the area and that betting could happen, particularly sports betting could happen at casinos. So if we know that they're at a casino, it would allow us real-time behavioral adjustments in the moment when they're gambling. We would also like the ability to give them personalized feedback and progress tracking where they would receive messages on their risk behavior as well as on attaining their goals.
In terms of the technical architecture, this is essentially a mobile app built for Android because Android is the most popular operating system for mobile apps, and this app can then be easily deployed for users. So for the mobile app itself, we can consider, again, this is not exhaustive and this is not prescriptive. The student team can choose the technology they prefer for various choices presented here. But one option is to consider Firebase authentication, as well as usage statistics manager, accessibility services, XO player for video playback for the videos that were discussed before, and Firebase cloud messaging, and local database services using SQL or Postgres with Cloud Sync. Apart from the mobile app, there is also the web component or a web-based component where the admin will have a portal to a web service. So this front end could be React or Vue. The backend could be a Java, Node.js, Express, or Django server. The video upload can be done again on the website through a browser. And again, the web-based service can collect user engagement analytics. So for the development environment and deliverables, what we can suggest are tools and technologies. For Android development, you have the popular IDE, the Android Studio, Kotlin. There are others as well the student team can consider. For cloud, we have Firebase, as mentioned before. And for version control, I think the senior design teams use GitHub, so we can continue to use that. For hosting, instead of large public cloud like Amazon or Azure, we are considering Namecheap, which from the name implies it's a cheaper alternative, or we could host it locally at UNL servers during development. In terms of expected deliverables, we would like to see a functional mobile application that is well tested and ready for deployment after integration of suggestions from the group, and backend website for management. So as with any other senior design, we expect there'll be 6 releases, 3 in fall, 3 in three in spring, and we'll have opportunity to give you continuous feedback as we proceed in the project. So with that, yeah, I'd like to conclude this presentation.